Hey everyone, welcome back to Heal My Cosmos. My name is Jenny Lee, and I'm here today to talk to you about the upcoming Capricorn full moon that is happening on June 29th at 5:56 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Now, here in Colorado on Mountain Standard Time, we have three astrological events happening on the same day, right? The full moon in Capricorn being one of them, Mercury retrograde in Cancer being the other, happening at 11:36 a.m. And then here in Mountain Standard Time, we have Jupiter entering Leo at 11:52 p.m. on the 29th. So if you're on Eastern time or on various different time zones, you might have it happening on the 30th, or maybe even the 31st. It would be the first, for some of you. But if you're here in Colorado or if you're on Pacific time, I know they're an hour before us, it would be late in the evening on the 29th. So I want to start to unpack this very layered astrological day and talk about all the different components so that everyone can prepare accordingly. So the full moon in the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn occurs on June 29th and is packed with potent astrological transits and pivots that we can feel that we need to unpack individually and collectively. So with each full moon, there is a climax facilitated by the sun and the moon opposing each other. This is every full moon, and it's what makes it a full moon, is that the sun and the moon are at the same degree point in polarity signs. Now, the sun will be at 8 degrees of Cancer, and the moon will be at 8 degrees of Capricorn. So there's this opposition between the cardinal water sign of Cancer and the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. With the plethora of Cancer energy, right? So there's going to be a significant amount of Cancer energy that we're working with at the moment of the full moon. So we have so much Cancer energy that it's going to be important to lean into the energy of the actual Capricorn moon at 8 degrees, because that can help us ground and stabilize and just really bring us into whatever priorities we have that day, so that we're not getting lost in any emotional excess that day. If you intentionally lean into the strategic Capricorn moon, you won't drop the ball on things that you need to prioritize as we move through the full moon portal, as well as this very heightened, very charged astrological day of the 29th. So as we move through this full moon portal, to allow for a more peaceful transition, the enormous planet of Jupiter is preparing, right, at the time of the full moon, preparing for its ingress into Leo, right? It's officially going to be in Leo. We wake up on the 30th, most of us, and we will have Jupiter in Leo, and that is so new and different, and we're going to talk about that as well. So the first major shift to occur on this powerhouse day of June 29th that ushers us into the exact moment of the full moon is the messenger planet Mercury in the same sign as the sun, so this cardinal water sign of Cancer, stations retrograde, right? So Mercury stationing retrograde in Cancer at 26 degrees to then move backwards to 16 degrees and go direct on July 23rd. So the degree points that are very relevant to this particular Mercury retrograde are 16 to 23. Wherever you have 26 to 16 degrees, of Cancer is where this retrograde is working with your life and your personal energy. And it will also be making aspects to other parts of your life, of your chart, right? So it's important to pay attention to this time period, to your awareness of what Cancer looks like, Cancer energy looks like in your life, right? In your own energy field. And with this particular day, we have the Cancer energy opposing the Capricorn energy, right? And so an opposition is always inviting us to come into balance and to try not to lose ourselves in any excess. Although there is this natural climax happening with the full moon. So Mercury is inviting us to review and reconsider all of the emotional terrain that we've been navigating while Jupiter, right, the planet of expansion and higher perspective and spiritual growth, has been helping us facilitate for the 13 months that it was in Cancer up until today, or on June 29th. And so it really is a grand opportunity to have this period of review. It's like, okay, what did we learn while Jupiter was in Cancer? And so it's this like slow down to kind of rewind. I always think of Jupiter in Cancer as this time capsule energy, right? Cancer refers to the past, right? Heirlooms, old things, our Cancer terrain, right? Our ancestry is Cancer terrain. And so you can think of Jupiter in Cancer as sort of taking that time capsule and sort of turning it over and making sure that we're seeing it from all the different angles that it is, all the different stories that it wants to tell us, and maybe even help us rewrite the story of the past and of our family of origin, right? And so with Mercury in retrograde, it's going to be kind of making sure that we didn't miss the point of the entire transit that Jupiter took through Cancer in the last 13 months, right? And so that's big stuff. And if we can carve out that space, if we can, start to become emotional or tearful and not swipe it away and like push it away to, repress it, if we can be with that during this Mercury retrograde, I do think that we're going to come out the other side a lot stronger in where we've been, who we are now, and where we're going. And so just keeping that in mind, that every retrograde is an opportunity to step further into empowerment, right? Into, okay, yeah, there's the breakdown to break through, like that has to happen. And that's a big Cancer theme. So at the exact moment of the full moon, Mercury retrograde in Cancer is conjunct Jupiter at the anaretic degree of Cancer at 29 degrees. So it's ready to enter Leo in the next few hours at that exact moment of the full moon. And so that speaks a lot of potency. It points at the enormous potential for expansion that this particular Mercury retrograde has, right? So it's a moment in time that stamps the beginning point of the retrograde with serious business, right? So it's stamping the retrograde, saying this is serious. You need to pay attention to this. This is going in a time capsule, and future generations will be able to dust it off and look at the gems that you discovered during this retrograde that were really initiated by Jupiter's transit in Cancer. So it's a moment in time where we need to not look away. We need to not shove down our feelings. We need to not override them, right? We need to not bypass them. And there's a difference between that and getting completely lost in our emotions, right? And that's why seeking out emotional support during this time is really important as well, because that's where we can start to find an outlet for our emotions without getting completely lost in our emotions. So this Mercury retrograde is going to be squaring Eris in Aries. So Mercury retrograde will be in a point of tension with Eris, which means that whatever Mercury retrograde is having us review within our emotional world, there's another part of us that's struggling to feel like who we are will ever be embraced in a way that feels like we can allow all parts of ourselves to exist, even in the messy emotional parts, right? And so Eris in Aries is always trying to get us to remember where we have felt othered and left out, not a part of the group. And with a square to Mercury retrograde in Cancer, it's about acknowledging any memories that come up, childhood memories, maybe memories from our teen years, young adulthood, in which we didn't feel like we fit into a particular group. Maybe we didn't fit into our family. And it's about taking the tension energy and figuring out where you can soften that tension and allow for whatever message wants to come through when you apply the medicine of the softening of the deep breath of, okay, yeah, this is hard, this is painful, I have felt this before, and I don't have to allow it to define what this is. I can choose to come into the present moment and define it based on the information in front of me instead of the information from the past. The next transit or aspect that's occurring during this particular full moon in Capricorn day is Mars has just entered the mutable air sign of Gemini. So Mars is sitting in this full moon at 0 degrees of Gemini, which makes our planet of motivation and action a bit more distracted than it was just yesterday, with doing every damn thing instead of just the things that contribute to your grounded stability. And when Mars was journeying through Taurus, that's exactly what it was focused on. It was focused on grounded stability, doing only what was going to contribute to that stability. And so going into Gemini can be a little unstabilizing for Mars, and it also can get a lot done. This Mars can be very busy. And if we're mindful about the busy energy, we can discern what's just busy and what's productive, right? And so that's going to be really helpful to think about during this full moon as well. Mars in Gemini is a great researcher, right? And can gather a lot of information and engage in a very active social life, right? Asking around for information is a Mars in Gemini superpower. And it is different from where it was in Taurus, but there's a purpose in every sign. There's a purpose for every planet to experience every sign at different points. And so this Mars in Gemini is forming a sextile or an opportunity aspect with Jupiter in Cancer, about to go into Leo, right? So technically, it's a very interesting sextile, right? Because very, very shortly, we are going to have it go into Leo, and that will mean that Mars will be at 0 degrees of Gemini and Jupiter will be at 0 degrees of Leo, and that is an exact sextile. But because it's still hanging on in Cancer for just a couple hours, I think there's symbolism in that. I think it could really support us in making contacts and aligning with the right conversations that can invite us to bring all parts of ourselves, right? Because this Jupiter and Cancer journey of the past 13 months has been helping us gather all parts of ourselves and reclaim all parts of ourselves so that we're not hiding away in our Cancer crab shells, right? And so with this shift into Jupiter and Leo, we can then start to bring all parts of ourselves to the table to actually create what's in our hearts, where we can create from a confident place, a passionate place, and feel really supported in doing so. So that Jupiter that is going from Cancer to Leo in that same few hours from the full moon all the way into the Jupiter transit into Leo is squaring Chiron in Taurus at 0 degrees. So the other planet at 0 degrees, well, it's not actually a planet, it's a point, is Chiron in Taurus at 0 degrees. As soon as Jupiter enters Leo, 0 degrees of Leo, just hours after the full moon is exact, it makes an exact square, again, a tension point with Chiron in Taurus at 0 degrees. This supports the sextile we just discussed between Mars and Gemini and Jupiter in Cancer and Leo, because Mars just made his way through Taurus. This Chiron is meant to bring up the important questions that Mars and Gemini is asking, right? Like how can I do my creative work in a sustainable way, right? That's the question that's being asked here with this square. So then we have Uranus sextile Neptune, right? So Uranus in Gemini, sextile Neptune in Aries. Uranus, known as the big brother of Mars, has also been in Gemini since April 25th and is now at 3 degrees of Gemini. Their exact conjunction will occur on July 3rd, but can be felt at the full moon as well, and will build in intensity leading to the exact conjunction on the 3rd, and then come down in intensity the days following the exact conjunction. So it can be felt from the 29th all the way till about July 5th. So just keeping that in mind as well. These two planets are both very intense. With one, Mars being a personal planet, it will be highly influenced by Uranus being the higher octave planet of Mars, and Uranus also being an outer planet. Mars is our personal drive and motivation to move forward, and Uranus is the collective, futuristic drive of the collective. So Uranus is motivated to shake things up in this bigger way so that progress can be made towards the future on this collective level. And then Uranus can also just act very abruptly, right? So in that time period between June 29th and July 5th, there can be abrupt energy that can feel destabilizing, right? Uranus is a very destabilizing energy. And so with these air signs, right? We're working in the air sign of Gemini. Gemini responds well to fast moving, abrupt changes, right? Gemini is a mutable sign, which makes it very changeable and adaptable. And so there is this congruency of energy between this conjunction between Uranus and Mars in Gemini. So in Gemini, these two planets coming together at the same degree point, there can be shocking information suddenly being revealed, right? Information, Gemini, sudden breakthroughs or developments with ripple effects that relate to Gemini themes, such as communication, everyday environments, as well as siblings, school, duality, right? All of these themes could have abrupt developments. At the full moon, Uranus in Gemini is forming a sextile or opportunity with the planet Neptune as well. Neptune is in the sign of Aries. Uranus wants to disrupt what doesn't align with the future, and Neptune wants to subtly dissolve what needs to end on a soul contract level. So Neptune always connecting us to the higher self, the spiritual realm, these soul contracts that are ready to end. And so it does so in this very subtle dissolving method, right, over time. So these two planets offer each other a chance to lend a helping hand in facilitating the endings that are calling us forward. Uranus in Gemini is also in a trine with Pluto in Aquarius, right? So Uranus in Gemini, air sign, Pluto in Aquarius, air sign. So this is an air trine. Uranus in Gemini is forming this trine with Pluto during the full moon. These two outer planets trining each other is very positive for moving the needle forward on collective change. Air signs trining each other are like huge information sharing events where there's a thin line between TMI and just enough information to have an epiphany that could just be that gust of wind strong enough to help us turn a corner collectively. So Uranus and Pluto are together and are even more powerful than Uranus and Mars, right? So even though Uranus and Pluto aren't conjunct, they are in this really beautiful trine, this supportive aspect. And so these two are outer planets versus Uranus and Mars being really complementary to each other. They're both really solid and powerful. Uranus is part of both of them, right? Uranus in Gemini is doing this work of sacred disruption and helping us find the path into the future. So there are changes that are meant to be permanent when planets, outer planets, are making these types of aspects. This is a very permanently changing year that we're in. And so keeping that in mind as well during this full moon. Full moons are climax moments. So any other part of that climax moment, right? Any other aspect that's involved in that climax moment is really significant. So we have Neptune also in a sextile or an opportunity aspect with Pluto. So Neptune is a soft, ethereal outer planet that is also extremely powerful at creating smoke and mirrors for us to be led down a path that is right for us without us even realizing it. It has to fool us into doing what we need that is sometimes not what we want at the time. In Aries, Neptune is powerful because it is given initiation energy to light the match on a dream that we were convinced couldn't happen. Neptune does its illusion dance, and we find ourselves exactly where we need to be. And in an opportunity aspect or a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius, we get to open our eyes to the shadowy parts of ourselves within the collective group that have been driving the bus of our lives. And we get to choose to step out of the shadow, acknowledge the smoke and mirrors, and see ourselves to be guided down the path of the soul. So anytime Pluto's involved, we know that there is shadow work to do. There is a subconscious aspect with Pluto ruling the subconscious. There's a subconscious aspect that's meant to make its way into the conscious mind so that we have the opportunity to alchemize the repressed memories, emotions that we've been holding on to that have been limiting our growth, limiting our life experience. And so if we can hold that as well during the full moon, that yes, we have this really nice opportunity to do some of our shadow work, I think that's a really beautiful thing as well. And then we have Chiron in Taurus opposite Haumea in Scorpio. So Chiron has just recently entered Taurus, like I mentioned earlier, on June 19th, and is bringing our awareness to where we don't have the stability we do crave in our lives. Haumea represents the Hawaiian goddess of fertility, and in Scorpio connects us with death and rebirth cycles. And so these two are opposing each other, right? These two asteroid points opposing each other at the full moon symbolize our innate ability to tend our own inner garden, right? Taurus and Scorpio representing the gardener, right? And the different parts of the gardener that create a successful garden. So, to do the necessary inner work to allow old patterns to die, to create the ones that create a solid enough foundation for us to actually grow from, right? And so, we're tending the garden of our soul from the inside out, right? A good garden is tended underground first, and then you see the results come out of the ground. And so that is a metaphor for the work that we're doing with our souls within these human bodies, right? And so Saturn in Aries will be trining Venus in Leo during the full moon as well. Now, this trine isn't as strong as it was, but it's still a trine in my book. At the full moon, Venus in Leo is at 19 degrees, coming out of this trine that is getting softer with Saturn in Aries at 14 degrees. So I see them as still supporting each other. I see them as having already done really significant, powerful work together. And they're supporting each other in allowing our heartfelt creativity, Venus and Leo, to flow from a place of sustainability, right? So Saturn in Aries is sustainability through self-discipline, right? And so a fire trine can really move something forward. And with Saturn involved, there is a grounded energy that you're not just moving forward aimlessly, you're moving forward with a solid, structured plan, a step-by-step plan. And so it's enough to be able to see that creative project or creative energy to actually see it through with Venus and Leo in the trine with Saturn in Aries. So since Saturn rules Capricorn, it is the ruler of the full moon, right? So that's a step back and just seeing the whole entire full moon as, oh yeah, Saturn is ruling this full moon. And so Saturn ruling the full moon puts emphasis on this trine between Saturn and Aries and Venus and Leo. Even though it's not an exact trine, because Saturn's the ruler of the full moon, there's emphasis there. So there's even more support. And so with all of that said, I wanted to bring attention to the areas that Saturn, the areas of the body that Saturn rules, as Saturn is the ruler of the full moon, like I was saying. Now, because we know full moons are climax points, right? It's important to pay attention to the areas of the body that Saturn rules and pay extra attention to them, giving them extra TLC, right? So the bones, your bones are ruled by Saturn, right? Your joints are ruled by Saturn, right? And there's all energetic symbolism behind it, right? Like Saturn is about being able to carry hardship for the long haul to find the rainbow eventually, right? And so your joints, right, your bones, they take on a lot. They take on your whole body, really. They take on your whole body's weight. And so, you know, bones and joints and teeth, right? Your teeth are also Saturn ruled. Your skin is Saturn ruled because it creates a barrier between your body and the world. And Saturn is about barriers and boundaries that are necessary in order to move forward, right? And so paying attention to the Saturn ruled, Capricorn ruled areas of the body leading up to the full moon is very wise, because if you're not caring for those areas of your body, then the full moon would want to spotlight that, would want to climax whatever is out of balance. And so keeping that in mind, right? Just taking care of those parts of your body a little bit extra this next week is highly recommended. And doing this overall boundary work, right? Doing this work that Saturn really supports, which is setting the boundaries that are calling to you at this point in your life, right? Because your relationship with boundaries even a year ago could be really different than they are needing to be now, today. And so I think it's just a checking in point around, where do I need to establish new boundaries? Looking at your own personal Saturn placement in your own natal astrology chart can help you do that, right? Where do I have Saturn in what house and in what sign? And that can help you start to unpack and understand the type of boundaries that you're needing to work on, right? Because that Saturn placement is something that your soul chose in order to develop the type of boundaries that would support you best in this lifetime. And so if you're interested in learning more about your personal Saturn placement and really just how to step more into your own chart and the potential of it and understand it from this soul's perspective, right? From this, oh, okay, so yeah, I signed up for this. This is the energetic blueprint of my soul's potential in this lifetime. Then definitely schedule an astro healing session with me. I would love to work with you one-on-one, either over Zoom or in person if you're here in Colorado Springs. And being able to understand your astrology chart and kind of decode it is one thing. And it's a whole different thing to start to understand on a soul level what this is telling you about your own unique soul journey, your own timing, your own evolution, right? Like what you signed up for essentially on this very soul level. And so if you're interested in that, check out my website, and I have a booking page where you can schedule me directly on Readings by Jenny Lee no, that's my email address. See, that retrograde's already getting to me. It is jennyleedowling.com. That is my website. And if you have any questions, you can definitely email me at readingsbyjennylee@gmail.com. If you are not yet a subscriber to receive my guided meditation and bi-monthly energy healing videos, it is a really great way to start sampling some of this astro healing work if you're not ready to dive in. Because what I do in these videos is essentially that. I am working with your subconscious mind, your soul records. I'm working with the current astrology, helping to release any lower vibrational expressions of that current astrology coming up for you and the group that is part of the subscription. So definitely get on my paid subscriber list for only $8 a month, and you will just receive this really intentional soul growth facilitation guidance, and I just love doing it. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And if you like this video, or if you liked this podcast episode, definitely share it with a friend, share it on social media. Be sure to tag me at Heal My Cosmos or at Jenny Lee Dowling. And I look forward to seeing you at the guided meditation and energy release video for this particular Capricorn full moon. It is going to be very potent because of the trifecta of astrology happening on the same day as the full moon. So we will be diving deep and we will be healing together, and I'm excited about it. So I'll see you there.